So welcome to this third of three webinars where we've been discussing the journey that all our agencies are going on. We've had some good thought leaders on the initial webinar, which was Peter Chapp, who looks after over 400 agencies. We had Liam Bateman from Silverchip on the second webinar where we discussed resilience that we're all having to find going through this journey. And then on the third of this webinar as such, we are going to be speaking with Liam O'Leary from an agency called Laser Red, and also again obviously we've got Jonathan Leaf on there, who is actually the consultant and the mentor to both myself and Liam for the last few years, helping us grow our agencies. So yeah, hi Jonathan, how are you?
Yeah, good morning. Well, I've got my golf shirt on, so that's a good sign. I feel like I'm going on holiday today, to be honest.
And hi Liam, nice to meet you.
Morning, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I was saying, I think we were saying before this webinar, you two look like you've been planning this meeting for a while with us.
Yeah, we've got the pictures right, we've got the shirts right, we've got the haircut. Quite a while to get together.
So yeah, so I suppose this webinar we are talking about what does it look like coming out of COVID, and you know, what are the plans, and yeah, how do we create growth and project that growth and action it moving forward. So Jonathan, I suppose you've got some insights on this. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about this for quite some time. I think we're probably just about to start phase 3 of the transition. Phase 1 being handling the crisis, phase 2 planning our way through the crisis, and phase 3 planning our way out of the crisis. And I think we're starting to get into phase 3 now. And I came across a really interesting article from our Capital on LinkedIn a week or so back, and I thought that was quite a good discussion point, because the point that they raised, there only are 3 kinds of businesses really that'll start to come out of this. You're either a bear, you're a meerkat,
share the screen,
or you're a deer. Yeah, put the screen up, Sean, and I'll explain it. So if you're a bear, you're expecting a slow recovery, sluggish to wake up from hibernation. You're very cautious. You don't want to do anything which is going to risk the business too much. If you're a meerkat, you're sort of like a bit slow as well, but you're peeking over the parapet, just seeing if there's any opportunities. But as soon as you get spooked or you think something's not right, then you'll retreat back to the core. And then finally, there's the deer, which is your high energy, fast action, and you'll move in hard from a standing start. So I think those are the 3 main things that I wanted to talk about really. And I think how you approach the next few weeks, the next few months, the next 6 months, the next 12 months really depends on a few things as well. Yeah. And first one of those is really your personality. I mean, if you don't like risk or you're cautious, then that's probably the best thing to do, because if you started doing something which doesn't suit you, then you might just go a little bit too far and become uncomfortable, and that could also cause itself problems. Your attitude to risk is on that as well, you know, and that probably depends as well on your current financial position. And then finally, I think really the most important one is what your client base looks like, because if your client base is stuck in industries which are going to be slow to come out of it, i.e. hospitality, travel, tourism, and other things like that, then you might want to be a little bit more cautious. So I posed the sort of questions to both Sean and Liam prior to us coming on air. And Sean, do you want to sort of like take up on that? How do you feel? Because obviously you've got to look at how your business has been over the last 6 to 9 months as well, really.
Yeah, I think, and you're used to this with me, I think, is sometimes if you wake up with a bit of a short-sighted view, like I've woken up today feeling a bit unoptimistic, you know, but even though we are in a good position, we have got plans in place, we have a good client base, and we are going to set off like a deer, if that makes sense. We have got the plans to do that, but in the same breath, I am questioning, is that the correct decision? So you've got to have courage in your convictions, I think. Yeah, so today I'm quite happy to get back in the fetal position and get back in bed, if I'm being honest. But the plan that we have written down, the plan that we are actioning is, you know, to get out of the traps and set off fast. Yeah.
What about you, Liam?
Well, we had a really good start to the year. So our last 6 months were really good, and that set us up to probably be a deer moving forward. But if we hadn't had such a good start, then I could easily see us becoming a bear or a meerkat. So yeah, we're also quite evenly spread across industries. We're not kind of too much in one sector. So we're quite fortunate. I don't want to say COVID came at a good time for us. It didn't come at a good time for anyone, but we were quite fortunate that we got that first part of the year really nailed. We were steaming ahead. So yeah, I think probably a deer if we're talking about the next 3 to 6 months. If it gets to 2021 and things aren't picking up so much, then we might become a bear pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair comment. I mean, my advice really is you've got to take everything into consideration. If you take those 3 factors into consideration, your personality, because going back to what Sean said there, yes, I have known you for a long time now, Sean, and I know what you like, but that's always only temporary with you. It's almost like you just have suddenly a dark cloud descends on you, but it dissipates as soon as it arrives as well. So I don't think you stick in that. I think at your core, you're optimistic, definitely glass half full. And I think that's really, really important in these times. I mean, the other thing that I noticed as well is that digital first agencies, ones that really have probably digital at the core, and I know both your companies do. You've got a great opportunity here because your clients will be nervous as well. They'll have been hit hard. And a lot of them will be waiting for you to make the first move. Whereas when you're busy, sometimes the last thing you do is think outside the box and get on the phone to the clients with new ideas. But now's the perfect opportunity to do that. What are your thoughts on that, Liam?
There's definitely a lot of opportunity for new digital things. I think some industries are going to really struggle. It's going to be hard to get them a digital solution that's going to work for them in the short term, because that's when they'll need it. I've been talking to a few clients about ideas for other projects, and every time we look at it, we go, yeah, that's a great idea, but it's going to take so many months to finish and get done. Lockdown could be over. And I think some people are kind of approaching a lot of decisions like that. If someone said lockdown's going to last a year, people would probably plow on and make other decisions, other factors, other projects. But I think everyone's kind of in this limbo of, it could only be another 1 or 2 months. So why put all of our eggs in this new direction? I think that's the biggest problem, is the unknown deadline of when this all could end.
Yeah, that's an issue. Sean, what about you? What conversations have you been having with your clients?
Yeah, well, I mean, the clients, clients we're putting ideas together. We've launched an e-learning platform for one client through all this. And, I think everybody's saying that technology has happened in 10 weeks instead of 10 years for a lot of businesses. So that's definitely happened for them. I was actually on a webinar yesterday with Google, who were demonstrating some beta features that are going to be coming out across different platforms. And some of the data that they were sharing around the different platforms for YouTube, for the adverts, all the data is pointing towards digital agencies having a lot of opportunity to grow businesses. I think as long as you can align that with your clients and their goals, I think it's a positive, optimistic outcome for digital agencies to grow their clients as well. It's not just about the agency growing, it's about growing the clients, isn't it?
Yeah, well, to be honest, that is the easiest way to grow your business, is grow your clients, because they'll take you with them. I mean, yeah, that's obviously obvious, and you're starting to push a lot of recurring revenue down into your bottom line as well, which obviously is critical to the success of any business. And if you can build that recurring revenue up, it always gives you like a slingshot for the future.
I think if I could just relate to this month, I think, April, we were coming into that stage of having all the conversations with the clients, and the ones that were retained with us are still paid their retainers, and a couple have gone on to 60 days and what have you. I think the month of May, for me, or for Red-Fern as an agency, plenty of conversations, everybody's looking to what happens next. And I think a lot of that will either get booked in June or July. So the actual, the conversations keep having those optimistic outlooks and views and ideas. But I think what I'm trying to convince myself and teach myself is that don't get hung up or depressed if no real bookings come in through May or June, because I think people are still waiting for that, that full move out of lockdown, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, just that's, I mean, so you make a very interesting point there. Just to quickly jump back onto what Liam said, because I think that's been happening quite a lot. I've noticed there's been lots of talk of pivoting and diversification and things like that. And I always think that you should proceed with real caution on that, because this situation will be temporary. And if you pivot and diversify too, you might get just caught up in that. And it's potentially ruinous, because you'll take the eye off what you're good at and also what your core mission values are as well. And actually that'll put you further back. So yes, I mean, we've been talking about one very close to you, Sean, that might have done something like that. And I'm thinking that actually, no, you've got to stick to your true beliefs and be patient. This is the most important thing. Yeah. And the deeper your pockets, of course, the more patient you can be. And it's best not to rush things as well. I mean, if we talk about your personalities and attitude to risks, I mean, can you just like talk about through how you sort of like dealt with the last 18 months, Sean? Because obviously I've known you for at least 18 months now, and your personality is sort of, well, your personality hasn't changed, but I think your attitudes have changed a little bit. Can you want to take us through that journey, so to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, my attitude to risk now is same to what Liam said before. This is I'm probably mid-level. In fact, everything I do is, when you talk about personal pensions and things like that, they're all mid-level. There's no high risk. Put me on a motorbike at 140 and I'm happy, but put me in front of a financial advisor and it's always mid-level risk. But I think the journey that we've been on over the last 18 months, that adversity to risk, I've got more confidence in taking a bit more risk, if that makes sense, because we've got the cash reserves, because we've got the clients that we work with. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it sort of does. I mean, Liam, what about yourself? How do you feel towards to risk as such, and how is your personality manifesting itself through these difficult times? I mean, I know you've been nose to the grind. I mean, you've got such a slingshot, as you said, from the last 6 months. So you've carried on at full steam.
But yeah, normally when I do a risk profile score, it's always like just above mid, and I try and push myself a little bit further. So anytime it's financial stuff, I'm always like, oh, I'm of the age where I could probably risk it, so I'll put it higher. But yeah, it still grates me when anything dips. You think, oh, that was difficult. But I think for me, that's probably how I'm driven. I usually look at the data and try not to be emotional about the decision, because your emotions change on a daily basis. So what I try to do is have a really clear picture of our finances, the forecast going forward, and then I can kind of work out, right, can we be risky here, or do we need to be a little bit reserved? Do I have the cash reserves? Do I have a plan B, essentially? What if that doesn't work? And I've always been in that kind of way. I always had a plan A and a plan B, worst case, best case scenario. And I think that has worked fairly well for the last couple of years. Try to take the emotion out of it and just focus on the data.
I think one thing Liam said, sorry, Jonathan,
carry on,
is the forecasting. I think that's one thing that you've brought into our business. The ability to forecast allows you to take more calculated risk, because you're not just looking at tomorrow, or you're looking 3-6 months ahead of yourself. So yeah, that allows you to take a bit more risk, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as the military would always say, the best laid plan never survives first contact with the enemy. And I think that's so Liam's absolutely right. I mean, I would argue that you definitely need a plan A, and that's your optimum one. But plan B is a good reserve one. But you probably also need a plan C, and maybe even a plan D now as well, because I think we've already discussed this as well. If you're a bear, a meerkat, or a deer, then at some stage you've really got to take stock, because there are a lot of businesses that I know that perhaps aren't as financially well resourced as your two companies, which are thinking, well, actually, let's retreat to our core. And I think actually that is also a half decent strategy. it's one of those sort of things where you say, well, actually, if we retreat to our core and actually just cut back everything that we're semi good at and not really good at, and just end up with what we're really good at, and right size the business. I know that's a euphemism for redundancies and reducing headcount, but you have to talk about all of these sort of things as well. I mean, that might be a plan D or a plan E, but at some stage, some businesses might well have to do that, because you have to protect the mothership. You have to protect the core business moving forward. The government has given us a lot of support through this, through furlough, through soft loans, through larger loans or whatever. And my personal opinion on those sort of things as well, particularly with furlough, I think furlough is like a bit of a sticking plaster over a wound that we don't know what it looks like, and then we take the plaster off, and then we go, oh Christ, it's worse than we thought, or it's better than we thought, which we just don't know. Furlough is sort of like masking things, and I'm just worried that some businesses might use furlough just to protect themselves from something which is bad anyway. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, because you obviously know other agencies as well.
Yeah, I think the furlough side of things, because they've just announced that it's at the end of July, and then they're reviewing it to what percentage it might be. Or
well, they're going to take it to the end of October, but they haven't
Yeah.
actually given it as detailed instructions as to what that means.
I think obviously when you talk about risk and I suppose your emotional resilience, because you've got an affinity to your team and your staff, and you don't want to make anybody redundant, that extends that. That emotion doesn't have to be at the forefront of your mind at the moment, because you can furlough people for the next 2-3 months. But yeah, I think what I've said to the staff today on our morning call is that over the next over this month, next month, and probably into July, you'll kind of gauge what your monthly income is, so you'll be able to make those decisions then. So it's it's being transparent with people as well, just so they know where they stand. So
I think I mean, communicating with the team obviously it's not something we've talked about, but I mean, we've been talking about how we feel about what our plans might be. Have we actually communicated those with our team yet? So what about yourself, Liam? What have you been talking to your team about?
We did a few things once we went into lockdown. I knew that the guys they'd have questions around COVID and the coronavirus, both on a health kind of side. So there was questions like, if a client wants a meeting, what do we say? Do we say, yes, we are, no, we're not? Like at the beginning of the lockdown, it was a little bit unclear what the rules were. So there were simple questions like that to answer. And then there was more questions like, is the business secure? Do I need to be dipping into my savings? What's the next couple of weeks look like? So we were pretty quick to make it clear what we had plans, we were working on them. Like Jonathan, like you said, we had a kind of a plan A, plan B, plan C around what we could do with the team, what we could do with, we had cash reserves, essentially how long we'd go without taking any income, how long we'd last. So we had timelines. And quite luckily, we kind of forecasted all retainer clients, both support, marketing, just completely dropping off. And luckily that hasn't happened. So what plan D or plan C kind of at the minute isn't a plan that we need to really consider. Plan A and plan B are the ones we're looking at. So yeah, it's I think just communicating with the team that you're not ignoring the situation and just kind of putting your blinkers on and giving them as much information as you feel comfortable giving them. That's probably what the advice that I give.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously staff are human beings, but they're also grown-ups, and I think human beings and grown-ups can take bad news. I think sometimes if the less information you give them, the more they'll make up. So I think it's also a good way to be fully communicative with your staff about what your plans are. Perhaps not necessarily your emotions and your feelings too much, but you definitely let, because you don't want to turn them with a face like a wet weekend. You think we're all doomed. That never goes down too well, does it?
We really tried to not be too pessimistic about it. Just reassure the team that we had a solid plan and that the business was strong still. keep them updated. Kept the whole team really updated actually on when a client was looking to either change their contract or cancel or whatever, and try and work with them. And we kind of just set. I think one of the things we did early was just have a team meeting and sit everyone down and say, look, this is an issue. You know, this coronavirus is not going to go away in a week, a month. It's going to be around for a while. It's going to impact stuff. You all need to be aware of this. Isn't like something that's going to just be a fly by night. And these are the potential things that might happen, and we will work around them. You know, we might have to be a bit reactionary to them. And we also just told the staff simple things like, look, we're going to suspend a couple of things. So, you know, spending that isn't needed. So we used to do a lot of stuff. You know, we got, obviously not possible now. We used to go out for meals with the team and do events and all sorts of things, but there'd be lots of other benefits and perks we do. And we just said, look, we're not saying we're cancelling them. We're just putting them on a hold. And to be honest, everyone on the team was like, yeah, we get it. Obviously, that's not a thing we need to be doing right now, is spending money on coffee and sweets and all the other stuff that you usually get in the office. So yeah, I think everyone was quite understanding. I think the news and what was going on made it very clear that this was an issue for everyone and not just our business. So everyone was in the same boat.
Yeah, and so how, Sean, from your team, what sort of feelings do you get from them? Because obviously it's everything different for them, isn't it? You know, they're working from home, they're isolated from the colleagues. It's all new for them. Some might have kids at home. You know, some might not be able to get outside as much as we could. So how have you sort of like coped with that?
I mean, you know, I think everybody's doing something like this, but the team quizzes on Friday are fantastic. You know, the banter that you get between each other's haircuts, and, you know, I'm into the skinhead apocalypse now. So it's, you know, it all adds to that camaraderie. But Monday this week was a tough week for everybody, I think, because they were all expecting this big announcement from Boris, and it didn't really change anybody's mind. So there was a big, you know, team meeting Monday morning to discuss the projects. There was trying to pick each other up and make sure we're moving forward into this week, you know, with a positive mindset. And then we've also this week discussed about the possible coming back to the office, because, you know, by the law we're allowed to now, but there's only myself and Alex, the creative director, in today. So we are looking at, we've got 15 staff, and we've said that it's entirely up to you. We obviously, you know, we've proved we can work from home, but from the 1st of June onwards, they were up to 6 staff in the office at any one time. So there's plenty of room to be socially distant. We've got all the PPE in. So again, giving the staff the confidence that you're having that foresight for their health, their safety, and their mindsets as well. So yeah, we can't help them with the haircuts, obviously. But,
no, but I think that's right. The point you've made there, Sean, is really important, because you've got to sort of actually visibly show things and actually do things moving forward, haven't you? It's really important, because people need that sort of visual impact. And I think even doing something is better than just talking about it. What about yourself, Liam? What are your plans for the next 2 weeks from your staff and where they're located point of view?
Well, most of the team are pretty used to remote working. So we have 2 office locations, one in Grimsby and one in Lincoln. And the Lincoln team, it's a bit of most of them work remote 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and come in for 1. So for them, it's actually second nature. A lot of the Grimsby team, they're in the office a lot more. So remote working for some of them full time for 6-7 weeks has been a little bit of a change. But after the announcement from Boris about, you know, potentially going back to work, no one was in a rush to want to go back to the office, but there are some people that do. So what I did yesterday actually was I did a survey online for the team and just asked them to fill it out. And it was to get their input and gauge, you know, how many of them are really enjoying remote working, how many of them don't like it, you know, do they have everything they need? Little things like, are they enjoying not commuting, or do some of them enjoy it? And also ask the question, you know, how safe do you feel coming back to the office? Are you worried about it? And it was interesting, the answers we got. Mixed on the worried in terms of health. I think that's probably down to age and location and things. But majority of the team really happy working remotely. You know, when we asked the question, how many days a week do you plan on coming back in the office? You know, I think 2.5 was about the average. So someone even said 2 days a month. So it's a bit mixed, but I think...
Was that your wife?
No. I think she actually, a lot of the team we asked the question, do you miss your work colleagues? Actually seeing them face to face, and actually a lot of people kind of like were saying yes. I do miss the team. So I think even though people have gotten used to remote working, I don't think it'll become like. Is it Twitter just announced that their team all remote forever? Well, I'd be interested to see what happens in like 6 months, whether Twitter start cancelling their leases and have no office space. I do know a lot of agencies that are full remote. They don't have a physical location. I don't think we'll go that way. I think that having a location, or at least somewhere they can all get together in person, is a big benefit. I don't think people will just want to, knock that on the head for full-time remote.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Sean. What do you think about?
Yeah.
You sort of like touched upon it before, but after Liam's said his piece there, I think that's quite interesting. That doing the survey about what Twitter have done as well, about some agencies completely being remote, etc.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on that?
The bulk of our staff want to be in the office, at least 2-3 days a week, 100%. And I just think from a client's perspective as well, you just can't get that emotion, that passion across for what you're trying to achieve for them. You need that physical interaction, definitely.
Yeah, well, I think so as well. I mean, I would also say that from a working from home and working in an office scenario where you've got other people around, and just the occasional water cooler chat, or just something can just drop an idea there that just simply cannot happen remotely, because it's almost in a forced Zoom meeting. You won't get the level of creativity, in my opinion, that you would do in just like a corridor meeting or a quick team meeting or something like that.
No, the biggest thing with these Zoom meetings is people, 100%, because I do it as well. You're on a Zoom call, and if you've got two screens, you've got other stuff going on. So the kind of zoned in approach when you're in a team meeting on a project or something is not the same as being sat kind of face to face, going through something, looking at something together. I think distractions with technology, it's always going to be a problem.
Yeah. And I think the nuances actually of body language, you can't get on a Zoom meeting, which is 2D. You just can't see it. Sometimes it's what you don't hear is more important than what you do hear, perhaps.
So Jonathan,
yeah.
Sorry. I was just gonna because the webinar itself, I know we're discussing certain different areas, but returning to growth. One of my questions, because for the people that are watching, what is we're going to come out of this like a deer. So if I just share my screen again so everybody can see that graphic, we are going to come out of this with high energy, fast action, keep the team together so that we can hopefully manage any demand that's going to come through there. But to me, as we're having this discussion, is there's a balancing act between your cash flow and that adversity to risk. Is that kind of how you see it? You've got to manage obviously what cash is coming in, but you're also managing what cash comes out, and that'll kind of dictate what type of reaction you're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can say is that my experience in the last financial crisis, obviously I had a business which had $1 million turnover in 2007, and I had a business by 2009 that had a 1.3, 1.4 million turnover, something like that, because I absolutely put my foot on the gas and I thought, well, this is a real opportunity, because there are going to be a lot of good people out there. There's going to be a lot of frightened clients. There's going to be clients who want someone who's just talking optimistic all the time. They'll be sick of dealing with agencies that are closed-minded, etc. So I saw it as a great opportunity to have more conversations, in all honesty, and it paid dividends. I know this is very different to the financial crisis, but I think the same rule applies. I mean, before we take a few questions, I've just got one thing that I wanted to say, really, and I wrote it down because I did want to say it. But being in business and entrepreneurship is risky. That's the bottom line, and we are the leaders, so we have to lead. That's what we are there for. You can obviously minimize risk by being smart, but you need to be able to flex your muscles when those muscles are needed to be flexed. So you've just quickly rising to challenges and seizing opportunities as they arise is what we're all about. Seek out those opportunities that no one else has seen, because if we don't do that, then our competitors or other businesses will do it before we do. So I think it's absolutely vital, and this is absolutely my opinion, and you know from my personality, Sean, and Liam will do as well. I said, let's just let's get going. You know, it might be a bit rocky. There might be some storms out there. There's going to be loads of things we're simply not expecting out there. But if you get on the front foot, have more conversations, then we are actually preparing ourselves for the future success of our businesses. And I think that's the most important thing that I would ever say to any other businesses, really.
Yeah.
So are there any final comments from you two guys? I know there's a couple of questions out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, like I said, just relating back to the topic of the webinar is, just come out of the traps and run. Well, if you don't, what are you going to do? Sit in bed.
If it's around not doing anything or talking to clients, it's only going to get worse for you. I think communication with customers right now is probably one of the top 3 things you should be doing on a regular basis. Just upping that level. We've tried as much as we can. The problem we've got is just speaking to as many clients as we can. Just getting hold of some of them is difficult. That I'm getting a lot of emails back saying, obviously this isn't our top priority right now, and it's like, I do get that, but I'm still going to keep pushing and trying to get in touch with you and I don't know, see what we can do to help, if anything.
Exactly, and I think you've got to be making those calls, because the danger is that it might not be top priority, and it becomes top priority, and you've gone missing. Yeah. So you've got to be in their faces as much as is comfortable for you and for them, of course. Just got one question here, and then we'll wrap it up. Unless there's any more questions out there from anybody. But from Steve, do you think clients will be okay working with agencies that have no office? Pre-COVID, it felt like it was a big thing for them, as they wanted an agency with a tangible substance. Do you think that's going to change?
My personal thought on that is that you've got to have a physical location. I'm saying that we just did a job for a company in San Francisco, and that was totally remote until we'd finished it, and then they came over and saw us. But I personally would prefer a physical location, just to give clients that, to give yourself that credibility of, we are this agency, we have this location, we have this team, and we're ready to work with you. Whereas if you're all remote,
you hear the longevity.
Yeah, if you're just remote, it's like you're pulling people in as and when you need them, and it's not really a cohesive team. I might be wrong with that, but that's how I feel.
Well, I just adding to that, Sean. I don't think you can ever build in any long-term recurring revenue with remote teams, because I think you probably attract the people who would want to dip in and do a project and use you as a supplier and then disappear rather than partner with your agency. So I think you're right on that one. So Liam, would you have anything to add onto that?
I'm going to slightly disagree. I think it comes down to the mindset and how traditional the client is. There'll be some clients that just, they want traditional business. They want to meet you at your office, stare you in the whites of your eyes, and know that if something goes wrong, they can come knocking on your door. Once those dinosaurs die out, then the new generation, they're going to be really open to, working with an agency that's essentially virtual all the time. We're definitely getting a mixture at the minute, and I think this will help. The other thing is whether or not the physical location is good for the business, not the clients, but the actual company. So like we said about having the staff in one place, I enjoy having an office. We've got games consoles and pool tables and all that other cool stuff that I can't fit in my house. So that's one reason to have an office. So I think there's a mixed bag. It really depends on the agency. I know some really successful agencies that are completely virtual and don't have any physical location. I think it just comes down to the team and what they prefer.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I've got a second question here from Gareth Allen. Should your attitude to risk change depending on short-term, mid-term, and long-term aspirations?
That's for you, Jonathan. That.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, yeah. Well, I'm going to just had to read the question a couple of times there. I think short-term is what you know, mid-term is what you think you know, and the long-term is what you'd like to know. In those sort of things, because when you go to long-term aspirations, you're talking about stuff which actually is probably a little bit over the horizon. You can't necessarily predict as much. So if you want to get your direction of travel going, and I talk about this a lot with the clients that I work with, once you decide what your long-term goal is, then you've got a direction of travel. So I think that will change your attitude to risk. In fact, you can constantly de-risking it by adding recurring revenue to the bottom line. I don't necessarily absolutely answers the question precisely, but I don't necessarily think your attitude to risk should change is probably the simplest answer.
Yeah, no, what you said there, like short term, you can take risks at short term because you've got more of a view of what might happen, haven't you? Like you said, so
Yeah.
I think your comparison of over the horizon and what have you makes good sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So, are there any final wrap-up questions that anybody wants to ask? Or Sean, Liam, have you got any final things that you wanted to say? I mean, just thank you very much for being on the webinar. I think this wraps up the three very nicely, and who knows, we might do some more.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do some more. I think it's consistency, isn't it? You're putting your content out there, putting our brands, just conversations with clients ourselves. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Liam, what about yourself? Any final thoughts?
Not really. I think we covered quite a lot. I think there was a question you posed to me about the difference between a hunter and a farmer. I think you used that analogy a while ago.
Yeah.
At the minute, with agencies, obviously, leads might not be as high as they used to be. What's your advice for agencies at the minute? Should they stay in farmer mode? Should they become more hunters?
I think predominantly you should be 75% farmers now. I think prior to that, 6 months ago, 90% farmers, but 75% farmers now, because there will be opportunities out there. So you've got to have more conversations, because there will be people out there that just want an agency like yours or Sean's to come out and say, we've got an idea. We've seen this, we've got an idea for you. Can we have a conversation? And that doesn't normally happen. And I think this is a unique situation. So from that perspective, yes, absolutely, farming is the most important thing that you'll ever do, because you will grow back with your clients, and you'll grow stronger back with the clients, deeper rooted, because of all of the things that you've done for them and that they'll be doing for you. But there's the opportunities there that aren't normally there. I think there's more conversations to be had. So definitely farmer, do a bit more hunting than I would normally suggest.
Yeah, no, that's fine for me, Jonathan. Yeah, I've enjoyed it, so I'm sure that I will do some more in the next.
Liam, thank you very much for dropping on. I know you've got a very busy schedule today, and for me the golf course is beckoning.
My pleasure.
Back on holiday. I can't even remember how to do it, to be honest. And it wasn't any good to start off with, so perfect. But at least I'll be out there.
Put some suntan lotion on that head, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'll be wearing a cap. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon. Thank you for everybody for attending. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.